Automated code review is one of the most impactful ways that you can improve the code quality coming out of your agent. I've known this for a while, but it's taking me a while to kind of implement it and figure out a reusable skill that I can give to people to review their code. I've got this review skill here in my skills repo, which is currently sitting at, 109,000 stars, and it is currently marked as in progress. I'm sort of okay with it, but I'm not terribly happy with it. So I've been looking around for inspiration in other skills that I can copy from, steal ideas from, and one crossed my path that I want to show you. It is this one from the Cursor team. It is the Thermonuclear-code-quality-review. Use this skill for an unusually strict review focused on implementation quality, maintainability, abstraction quality, and codebase health. And one thing I think is notable about this skill is how ambitious it asks the reviewer to be. It's asking it to be very ambitious and look for code judo moves throughout the review. The skill itself is simply one file. It's just a SKILL.md up here. And what I thought I'd do is I would copy it to my local system, try it out on some actual code of mine, and see what it comes up with. Yesterday, I spent a lot of time working on Sandcastle, my open source software factory. And so I figure I would review the last X number of commits and see what it thought about them. So I'm going to be pretty loose here. I'm just going to say Thermonuclear Code Quality Review, review the last 5 PRs that made it to main. I'm going to stick it on auto mode, and while it's doing this, let's go and actually read the skill because that should explain the skill a bit more. So it starts from this baseline. Perform a deep code quality audit of the current branch's changes. Rethink how to structure implement the changes to meaningfully improve code quality without impacting behavior. Work to improve abstractions, modularity, reduce spaghetti code, improve succinctness and legibility. Be ambitious. If there is a clear path to improving the implementation that involves restructuring some of the code base, go for it. Be extremely thorough and rigorous. Measure twice, cut once. What I've often found with review skills like this is that the agent is not ambitious enough. If you pass an agent a diff, then it will usually treat that diff as its bounds within which it can work. Whereas this prompt appears to be going beyond that. It's essentially saying, look throughout the entire code base for opportunities, but starting from this current branch's changes. It also goes on to add a bunch of non-negotiable additional standards. Be ambitious about structural simplification. Again, the ambition. Do not let a PR push a file from under 1K lines to over 1K lines without a very strong reason. This is really interesting. I've actually reached this conclusion myself as well. Large files are just quite hard for agents to navigate because they need to ingest the entire file into their context window in order to find the thing that's actually useful within it. A much better way to structure that is to split them into multiple files and let the the file name of the file be the context pointer that tells it what's in that file and whether it might need to open it. This ends up being a lot more context efficient. I have generally split my files if they go over 5K tokens, but this 1K lines is sort of, I guess, a similar rubric. Do not allow random spaghetti growth in existing code, okay? I see, it's sort of arguing against nesting here. If a change adds weird if statements in random places, treat that as a design problem, not a stylistic nit. Prefer pushing the logic into a dedicated abstraction, helper, state machine, policy object, or separate module instead of tangling an existing path. Interesting. This is another way of telling it to be aggressive about, if there's a bunch of nested if statements and weird conditionals, maybe abstract that into a cleaner abstraction or a helper or something. It's arguable whether I prefer that. I suppose sometimes I do, sometimes I don't, but let's assume it's a good thing for now. Bias towards cleaning the design, not just accepting working code, again pushing it to be ambitious. Prefer direct, boring, maintainable code over hacky and magical code. This is like a classic one in these prompts. This comes from, I think, simplify in Claude Code. Not the same wording, I think, but a similar idea that you want simple, direct code that's easy to read. I really like this one, actually. Push hard on type and boundary cleanliness when they affect maintainability. So we're specifically talking about types here. Question unnecessary optionality, unknown any, or cast-heavy code when a clearer type boundary could exist. This is kind of TypeScript focused here. Unknown and any are specifically TypeScript terms. And the unnecessary optionality is one that always gets me. Whenever an agent adds a prop onto a React component, let's say, it always adds it as optional. I don't know why. I don't know why. It's so stupid. Even when it's always required, it will add it as optional just to make it backwards compatible or something, or to lessen the blast radius of the change. So yeah, question unnecessary optionality is a great one. Keep logic in the canonical layer and reuse existing helpers. Prefer existing canonical utilities and helpers over bespoke one-offs? Yes, I suppose it's basically just telling it to look for places where this has already been solved in the codebase and use those instead. Makes sense. Treat unnecessary sequential orchestration and non-atomic updates as design smells when the cleaner structure is obvious. If independent work is serialized for no good reason, ask whether the flow should run in parallel instead. I see. This is about performance, essentially. Obviously, when two things that are independent, if they run in parallel, then it's going to be faster than if they run sequentially. So that's kind of what it's going for here. But it's also saying do not over-index on micro optimizations. Okay, so it's basically telling it don't go too far. I think if this was my skill, I would definitely rewrite this to be a lot more direct. Treat unnecessary sequential orchestration, non-atomic updates as design smells. That's just word salad to me. I don't know what that means. So this is really cool. Primary review questions. For every meaningful change, ask, is there a code judo move that would make this dramatically simpler? That's great. I love that. Can this be reframed so that fewer concepts, branch, or helper layers are needed? Lovely. I don't love this. Does this improve or worsen the local architecture? You've got to say exactly what good and bad looks like to an agent in order for improve or worsen to mean anything. Overall, this set of questions, along with the kind of rules above, give the agent a nice kind of way into talking about the code, which is what you need. And now it talks about really bad stuff. Escalate findings when you see a complicated implementation where a cleaner reframing could delete whole categories of complexity. Refactors that move code around but fail to reduce the number of concepts a reader must hold in their head. Yeah, there's a bit of repetition going on here. Unnecessary casts, any unknown or optional params. What sort of scares me about these big review-based prompts is that this is a huge ball of mud for the agent to read. Like, there's a lot of instructions in here, and it's hard to know what to prioritize for the agent. So I don't know. This makes me a little bit nervous. I do like this though. When you identify a code quality problem, prefer suggestions like delete a whole layer of indirection rather than polishing it. Again, ambition. Split a large file into smaller focused modules. Again, making things easier to navigate for the agent. Again, duplication. Make type boundaries more explicit so the control flow gets simpler. There's a lot of duplication throughout a lot of this. This could be cut down, I think, quite a lot. Review tone. I don't know why this is here. This is just sort of saying choose your tone, I suppose. Be direct, serious, and demanding about quality. Do not be rude. This seems like a crazy thing to add to a skill. I don't know why that's here. What this does do is it does really punch the language that the agent should be using. So we're really emphasizing code judo, saying decompose, pushes the file past, makes the surrounding code more spaghetti. I like that. Further down, we can say output expectations. Right, this is nice. It's saying to prioritize findings in this order. It's saying to float the important stuff to the top, and legibility and maintainability concerns are at the bottom. Structural code quality regressions right at the top. Right, and it is asking for an approval here. So it's approving or rejecting the PR. And again, tons and tons of repetition here. This skill could be a lot shorter. So what we have is a large block of text that basically says, be more ambitious. Here are some specific things that you can focus on in your review. Really go nuts here and propose a ton of structural changes. Make sure that you prioritize your findings in a certain order so you don't flood it with useless crap, and then approve or reject based on these conditions. What I don't like here is there's no mention of testing. There's no mention of seams. There's no mention of any kind of improving the feedback loops to make future runs better, which in my view is the entire point now of having a good code base, or having a code base that's easy to change and modular and easy to navigate. All of this appears to be focused on actual source code, none of it on tests. Interesting. But okay, let's read what it said here. So it's taken the last 5 PRs to main, and it has found some blocker class structural issues. Okay, it's found that an init service is now a big file, so it's over 1,000 lines, and it mixes a bunch of stuff here, and it should have been preceded by a split, and it's proposed a nice split there. Oh, it's also trying to create an abstraction here, a little make registry generic function. Returning this would delete 20 lines of duplicated boilerplate at the same time. Feels good. That's nice. So we now go to the next one, the feature-specific if issue tracker name custom scattered across 3 layers. Interesting. It's basically saying that instead of this being a special case if statement here, we should instead do a bit of code judo and push the custom tracker variations into a type itself, and then it can be read later. I think in terms of suggestions here, I happen to know this code quite well. I think we are at 2 out of 2 here. That seems like 2 really good suggestions. Down here, we have an inconsistent contract. Template args carries both shell commands and prose markers. It's basically saying that some of these are runnable, but some of these are not runnable here. And it's saying that maybe we should widen the type to either a command or a to-do marker discriminated union, or use a different field entirely for unfilled markers. So it's basically trying to strengthen the type boundary here so that we don't later pass in a prose marker into something else. That's interesting. I think that this comes from an inaccurate understanding of the whole system, which is okay. You're going to get some false positives. I suppose there's a false positive in any review prompt. So this is the kind of thing, if it came up in a PR, I would say, this is fine, don't worry about it. So 2 out of 3, not bad. Let's go look at the strong code quality issues. Aha, we do have a weird bug here that it's, well, not a bug, just a weird bit of code design. We essentially have different templates in Sandcastle that each declare the dependencies that they need, and mostly they declare Zod as their dependency. So we have this weird code path in here that looks like it just hard codes Zod, and then interesting. Well, yeah, overall, this is quite hard to explain, but it's definitely pulled up something weird here. So I think we're at 3 out of 4, which is good. Oh, it's found some swallowed errors here. Exec sync inside effect.sync with swallowed errors. Interesting. We can see it's trying something inside here, and if it fails, then it just like returns false inside here. So yeah, this is definitely another thing that I would like the reviewer to look at. Looks like we started decomposing a large file into small files, but only half finished. So this again is a good one. This is 5 out of 6 so far. And it's now saying there is a bit of prompt duplication within some prompts that were changed here. So the change is byte identical for 2 different prompts here. It's saying that we should refactor those into an issue list preamble. I don't think that's right. I think the prompts should just be independently changeable. So not bad though, 5 out of 7. Then it's got a list of smaller items worth fixing here. I've done a quick scan and I would say most of those look pretty good and interesting. I'm kind of intrigued by the approval bar here. Under the skills stated bar, a couple of the PRs should not have landed in their current shape. The behavior is correct in all 3 substantive PRs, but the codebase is meaningfully messier than it was a week ago. Well, cool. I mean, we got some really good feedback from this skill, I think. I think what this is teaching me is that actually getting the review to be super ambitious and getting it to push a lot of different options will give you more false positives, but those false positives are pretty easy just to say no to, right? It's the ones that you miss, that you never know about, the opportunities for improvement that you never see, those are the dangerous ones. Overall, I will clean up this skill so it's not quite so duplicative, so there's a bit more dry, and I would also just get it to focus a lot more on tests as well. Think about the seams in your codebase, kind of like what my improved codebase architecture does. But overall, I think this is worth pulling down, experimenting with, and just seeing what comes out of it. Now, if you dig this stuff, then I'm running a cohort starting next week, starting June 1st, on AI coding for real engineers. This has been my most subscribed to course ever. People are going nuts for this. We're going to have, I think, around 4,500 people in there. So yeah, it's absolutely wild. But if you're enjoying this stuff, if there's a skill that you want me to review, I really like making that content because it lets me steal ideas from other people's great skills, then let me know. Nice work, and I will see you very soon.